Oh my. Make of it what you will. Alright. Well. Out of the park baseball, we meet again. This is how I got my start on YouTube, and even last year on this channel, I was doing a 10-year resimulation of the previous decade of Major League Baseball. But this is what we'll be doing in Out of the Park Baseball 24. We will be simulating the future. We were creating an alternative past last year, but now we move forward. We're going to simulate the next 5 seasons of Major League Baseball, so that simply you don't have to watch Major League Baseball anymore. You'll be free. You'll know exactly what's going to happen. The players won't even have to play the games because this is the outcome that is going to occur. Hey, it's me. So I'm recording this after I've completed the 2023 season and offseason, and I gotta say, this thing went completely off the rails. It makes me not want to go through with the 5-year plan. What went wrong? You'll just have to watch this video to see what happened. So I've simulated to opening day here off of a 2023 season quick start type setup, and I'm actually recording this the night before opening day, on opening day eve in real life. However, as I said, what's going to happen in this video is simply going to predict the future, so there's no need for me to watch opening day. I can just watch opening day in the game and see what happens. One thing I do want to note, they do have injuries locked in pretty good there. Jose Altuve has a fractured thumb. That's real life. Lance McCullers Jr., Michael Brantley. But some of the rosters aren't 100% correct. For example, they have Dixon Machado starting at second base in Altuve's absence for the defending champion Astros. I don't expect that to be the case. It seems like it'll be a mix of, say, Mauricio Dubon and David Hensley at that position. But yeah, just a heads up, we are coming into the season with some proper injuries recorded, just as we would in 2023 real life. Now, I'm not playing the game per se. This is usually a GM type simulator. I'm acting as a baseball god, but not a baseball god who meddles with the day-to-day happenings of MLB organizations. I'm just letting it ride. We're going to check in intermittently, usually every few weeks or so, and see what are the interesting events that are going on, and just sort of monitor this league as it progresses for the next 5 seasons. As far as the settings I'll be using, the big one I would say is talent change randomness. So talent change randomness comes default at 100. I have set it to 125. I would consider talent change randomness to be akin with just sort of chaos. What's the chaos quotient of your league, of your universe? And I like to bump it up a little bit. It basically means that good players are more likely to become bad players and vice versa at a slightly higher rate. I don't want things to be too predictable. I don't want the number 1 prospect to always be a superstar. I don't want the number 500 prospect to always be not interesting. We'll put it that way. So talent change randomness gets bumped up to a 125. As far as the injury frequency, what I could have done if I was feeling really sinister was set the long injury frequency to high, realistic modern day. And that is, we've seen some long-term injuries happen already before the season's even started. And think of how many great players were injured last year. So injuries happen a lot. What this normally comes with is normal, which in parentheses they call OOTP classic. I've reached sort of a compromise here, so we're going to see a higher frequency of short injuries than the default game, but long injuries are going to be about normal. So, same amount of Tommy John surgeries, that's going to be normal, which is probably actually a little bit less than the realistic, but short injuries, you got beat up and you spent a few days out of the lineup, that's going to be a relatively common occurrence in this universe. One feature that is usually enabled that I've decided to disable is the dynamic evolution of the league. Usually when you start a new save, this is turned on. I've decided to disable it, and in doing so, I've essentially frozen the league to 2023 settings. This means that, the active roster size will be 26. That's not going to change. There's going to be universal DH in both leagues. That's not going to change. The Oakland Athletics are going to remain in Oakland and remain the Athletics. So basically, league stays the same. If you enable this, certain rule changes and certain things in the league structure will randomly change intermittently every few years throughout the save. And finally, one last feature that I've disabled is storylines. Storylines is where you usually see like the funny screenshots from this game. It'll involve a player seeking spiritual enlightenment with a guru only to retire at the age of 27, or someone fell off a roof or got a weird injury or something like that. I've disabled it. There are storylines in real life baseball. I would say Noah Song is a player who has gone through a storyline, but because it can just randomly cause players like Mike Trout or Shohei Ohtani or Aaron Judge to retire very abruptly, I'm going to leave that disabled so as not to risk it. Usually I like to start the season with preseason predictions. This is when the game itself tries to predict what's going to happen. This is not a reflection of what is actually going to happen when we run the full simulation. I'm just going to come out and say, there is some jank happening with the preseason predictions. This is a brand new game. OOTP 24 just came out, and usually over the next few weeks they'll update it and make it a lot better. Generally, this feature has been pretty good throughout past out-of-the-park baseballs, but Jacob deGrom, suffice to say, will not be throwing 267 innings this year. And I would honestly be a little bit surprised if Warming Bernabel was like the fourth best hitter in the National League. That would surprise me a little bit, suffice to say. As far as the teams, though, interestingly enough, does not like the Yankees, likes the Rays, I would say, has the Guardians winning the Central and the Astros winning the West. That's, a pretty expected outcome. Braves and Mets battling atop the East. Cardinals win the Central, and the Dodgers with 103 wins winning the National League West. So that's what it thinks is going to happen. But I'm going to say preseason predictions, at least for now, a little bit on the jank side. I'll also be kicking off every season with just a glimpse at the top players in the league. These are the top hitters in the league by the star rating system. Alternatively, you can use the 20 to 80 scale, but a 5-star, I would say, would be akin to about an 80 grade player in Major League Baseball right now. Players who have earned 5 stars coming into this year: Mike Trout, Tatis Jr., who they've given a strained shoulder, I think, to account for the remainder of his PED suspension. Juan Soto, who should be starting opening day in real life, but did exit spring training a little bit banged up. Adley Rutschman gets 5 stars. He's rated as the highest-rated catcher in this game. Shohei, Aaron Judge, Vladdy Jr., Byron Buxton, Nolan Arenado, Yordan Alvarez, Pete Alonso. Make of that what you will. 4.5-star players are here. That also includes Trey Turner. And then, there's just a quick glimpse at some of your other top hitters in the league. There you go. We're going to do the same thing for starting pitchers. Starting pitchers, 5-star starting pitchers are Justin Verlander, Julio Urias, Carlos Rodon, who comes in with the strained forearm. He will return for the Yankees in 2 weeks in this save. Shohei and Jacob deGrom. 4.5 stars go to Woodruff, Scherzer, McClanahan, Cole, and Corbin Burns. Here are the rest of your top starting pitchers in the league. There you go. So now we understand who are the big dogs in the league, at least for right now. We will check on this yearly and see how it evolves over the next 5 years. And then finally, before we get this show on the road and skip ahead to about the end of May, here are your top 100 prospects. Top hitting prospects include Francisco Alvarez, who's number 1 overall, Jordan Walker, Corbin Carroll, Anthony Volpe. Again, this is pretty close to real life. Don't be that surprised. Grayson Rodriguez, Tanner Bibby, I think that's how you say his name. A very good pitching prospect in real life, may I add, but I'm not sure I would put him at number 3. Yuri Perez, the freak for the Marlins. Taj Bradley, again, kind of similar situation with Bibby. Bobby Miller, Andrew Painter. Those are your top 10 guys. And interestingly enough, they have given Andrew Painter partially torn UCL with 7 weeks to return. He is going through elbow troubles at the moment, so we wish him all the best. Excellent. So without further ado, let's get this show on the road. Let's simulate until May 31st, 2023, and see how the season is going a couple months in. Okay, so it is May 31st. The teams have played about 56, 57 games each. Checking in on the standings here, first thing that caught my eye, wow, the Cleveland Guardians are absolutely tearing it up. They already have opened a 7-game lead over the Twins. In the West of the American League is a total dogfight between the Astros and the Rangers. Whoever doesn't win this division will probably grab a wild card spot, as the Rangers are 8 games up on those Twins. And then the AL East, kind of as the preseason predictions called, the Yankees disappointing to start the season so far. 5.5 games behind the Tampa Bay Rays, and then the Orioles second. In fact, I would just say in general, this division appears to be underperforming, with the exception of the Tampa Bay Rays. In the East, The Braves, Mets, and Phillies, they're all good. The Nationals and Marlins, not so good. Cardinals lead the Central, and the Padres lead out west with the Dodgers, shockingly, out to a 26-30 start. We'll have to see if that holds. Currently holding wildcard spots in the National League are the Phillies and the Cubs. Here are your league leaders offensively. A lot to take in right now. Luis Garcia is batting .357. Mitch Garver is slugging .629 for Houston. Vladdy Jr. with an OPS over 1,000. 23 doubles for Corey Seager already. That seems like a lot. In terms of your WAR leaders, it's Abreu and Bregman, so two Houston infielders leading the way. Then Austin Riley, Adley Rutschman, and Brendan Donovan. I already noted Brendan Donovan, 5th in on-base percentage, and Ketel Marte 1st. So an interesting start here in terms of your league leaders. Esteury Ruiz with 23 stolen bases. That's a distinct possibility. There's a distinct possibility he actually would lead Major League Baseball in steals this year. Now, taking a look at the pitching leaders at this point in the season, Yu Darvish has the best ERA in the league by a pretty solid margin at the moment. Julio Urias 2nd, Ross Stripling a surprise in 3rd. Jacob deGrom leads the league in FWAR with 2.8. I should point out that Out of the Park Baseball does indeed use FWAR, which means it's going to be based off of FIP. So things like his 101 strikeouts and 75 innings, that's going to help the FIP. Manuel Clace leads in saves. And yep, there's the rest of your leaders in terms of pitching at the moment. We are now going to simulate until July 11th. This represents both the All-Star game, so we'll check in on the All-Star rosters, as well as the first-year player draft, so we'll check in on the draft as well. Alrighty, I am back with the draft. Hopefully you'll notice that the quality of the video has improved. I had to tinker with my settings in OBS, but I'm going to be recording at this quality for the rest of the series, hopefully. In terms of your top draft prospects, it's Dylan Cupp, followed by Dylan Cruz. I'm going to be honest with you guys, I'm not a huge draft nick. I don't watch a lot of college baseball or follow like high school baseball much. I know Dylan Cruz is probably the top draft prospect in real life right now, the center fielder from LSU. They also have Paul Skeens, who's also an LSU player. I know that. And then Chase Dollander. I know him. And the rest of these guys, well, okay, I know Jacob Gonzalez too. But the rest of these guys, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm just not that well versed in terms of the draft. As we get closer to the draft in real life this summer, I'll probably learn about more of them. But at least according to OOTP, these are the top guys in the draft class for 2023. First 5 selections will be Pittsburgh, Washington, Detroit, Texas, and Minnesota. I was actually there for the first ever MLB draft lottery at the winter meeting, so it's just kind of funny to see these 5 teams right now. The draft is now over. The Pittsburgh Pirates, with their first overall pick, went for Chase Dollander from Tennessee ahead of Dylan Cruz. That's who the Washington Nationals picked up at 2. Tigers Max Clark at 3. Rangers Paul Skeens at 4. And then the Twins get Dylan Cupp at 5. Here are the rest of your teams. You can pause the video if you want to see who did my favorite team pick. Who did my favorite team pick in the draft? And then, why not? Here's the second round. OOTP is usually pretty good with having a good population of actual real life, draft eligible players. So there's your first 3 rounds at least. If you just want to pause the video, take a look. If you don't care, that's totally fine. But yes, Dollander looking to be a pretty good pitcher overall, but with questionable movement. Movement lines up with home runs, so the home run suppression might not be there. Here's Cruz. Just looks like a pretty well-rounded outfielder, I would say. And he goes to the Nationals. Dollander goes to the Pirates. It is time for the All-Star rosters. Here's your look at the All-Star Game rosters for 2023. DeGrom's going to get the start for the American League, having an excellent first season with the Texas Rangers. Some really interesting relievers here, but they do have Clace and Presley, who are not surprising. Let's put it that way. Vinny Pasquantino is an All-Star. I'm a big fan of his in real life. Interestingly enough, Yankees fans, Oswald Peraza makes the All-Star Game. Forget Anthony Volpe. You have Oswald Peraza in this universe. Jake Myers gets a first-time All-Star for Houston. Austin Meadows. This might not be Austin Meadows' first. His second-time All-Star. Good for him. Moving on to the National League here. Here are your starting pitchers. The surprise here, probably Ryan Nelson from the Diamondbacks. That's not the only surprise Diamondback here, folks. Justin Verlander appears to be getting the start. Some weird relievers, but you do get Helsley, Phillips, and Williams. None of those guys too surprising. Luis Garcia continues to have a big year. I was particularly struck by the inclusion of Josh Rojas. So there you go, a couple Diamondbacks, but yep, and then outfield looking pretty strong there as well. One thing I really want to check in at the All-Star break is injuries. So Shohei Ohtani has a minor one in terms of longer-term injuries. We have Bo Bichette, strained oblique, 5 to 6 weeks left on that. Andres Jimenez, sprained knee. Brandon Nimmo, torn meniscus. Going to miss 4 months. He's played 77 games this year, so that's tough for him. Matt Olson, bone marrow edema. Anthony Rendon, broken kneecap, so the bad luck for him continues. And then Ronald Acuna Jr., torn meniscus in the knee. He has 7 to 8 more weeks until he's recovered for that. So those are your top batters in terms of their injuries. Some injured pitchers. Tyler Glasnow, torn elbow ligament. That's a huge bummer. Obviously, he's been through a lot in injury-prone player. Walker Buehler still trying to recover from Tommy John surgery. That's not a new injury for him, and I think it's going to be the same for Shane Baz right here. Some other players who are injured. Cobb from the Giants is injured. Bailey Falter, Logan Gilbert, the Heen Dog, George Kirby, Manoah. So yeah, those are some injured players in the league. Still at the All-Star break here, I know you want to take a look at the standings. Looks like the Rays and the Astros are the two best teams in the American League. Guardians still continue to lead the Central. Wildcard spots right now occupied by the Rangers and Blue Jays. The Braves lead the NL East, the Cubs lead the NL Central, and the Padres continue to lead the NL West, although the Dodgers have recovered. Remember, the Dodgers had a really bad start. They're up to 49 and 40 and in the hunt for a wildcard spot there alongside the St. Louis Cardinals. And then another glimpse at the league leaders here. Freddie and Xander Bogaerts are tied for average. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. leads in home runs and OPS. Judge leads in slugging and runs batted in. Freddie leads on base percentage. In terms of WAR, Austin Riley leading the way with 4.2 at the All-Star break. One thing I'm really interested in monitoring here is stolen bases. So Out of the Park Baseball seems to believe that the stolen base will be back big time with the rule changes, the larger bases, improving the run game. Cedric Mullins, I can't escape him, leads at 36 stolen bases at the All-Star break. So maybe he'll steal, I don't know, 60, 70. That's kind of crazy to think about, but I would love to see anyone do that this year. Pitching leaders, Ross Stripling continues to impress with a 2.49 ERA. He's in the All-Star game. DeGrom leads WAR. He has 192 strikeouts and 137 innings pitched at the All-Star break. Are you kidding me? Is he going to throw 260 innings? This is crazy. Shane Bieber leads wins. Jalen Beeks, wow, of Tampa, leading the way in terms of saves. DeGrom, best FIP with Snell second. And there are the rest of your pitching leaders. So my next move is going to be simulating towards the end of the trade deadline, and then once we're there, we can take a look at some of the interesting transactions that have occurred. Right before we look at those transactions, here are the standings again. I have not seen too much movement over the last few weeks, but yeah, there's your standings right now as of August 1st, 2023. So first interesting trade I stumbled across is the Twins acquiring Josh Rojas. It looks like the Twins sent over Tyler Mahle and then a prospect, Anderson Nova. But remember, Rojas was an all-star, so that's a big addition for the Twins as they try to stay in the hunt in the Central there. Looks like Kenley Jansen is leaving Boston and headed to St. Louis for their playoff push. So Kenley Jansen joins the Cardinals in exchange for a prospect, Jeremy Ramos. This could be a big move for the Oakland Athletics, but they've traded Tony Kemp for George Valera of Cleveland Guardians. Cleveland traded Logan Allen for John Means. This one could be big, and it's also a head-scratcher because I'm a big fan of his in real life. Brandon Pfaadt on his way to San Francisco for Miguel Sano? Really? Okay, this one's crazy. Philadelphia sending Craig Kimbrell and a pretty decent-looking infield prospect for Josh Young. That's a big-time trade. Potentially interesting one here. The Rays have traded Manny Margot and a couple younger prospects for this Brewers reliever whose last name I can't say, although I'll be honest with you, I do think he's good. And then the Weem dog, Joey Weimer. Looks like Andy, I don't know how to say his last name again, Page? I can't remember, but he's a pretty big deal prospect in exchange for Jesse Winker. So Jesse Winker joins the Dodgers. And then finally, the Oakland Athletics continue to make moves. They send Kevin Kelly to the Cubs in exchange for Christopher Morel. So that is your trade deadline. Oh, by the way, in case you were wondering about Mitch Garver on Houston, looks like that was a trade that involved Michael Brantley, who is now on the Texas Rangers. And may I say, having quite a nice season for them. So that's kind of an interesting, maybe a win-win for both of them because Mitch Garver is tearing it up, doing a pretty good job for Houston as well. All right, now we know how things have changed over the course of the trade deadline, and now it's time for us to skip ahead to the end of the regular season and see how these playoff races end up. So we're here at the end of the regular season. One thing I'm noticing, just if there's any OOT people watching this, is that it seems like the game was kind of having trouble with there being no game 163, and I think what ended up happening here is the Mets and the Cubs ended up with the same win total, battling for that third wild card spot in the National League. The game has decided to give that to the Mets. They are participating in the wild card round, while the Cubs, unfortunately, are going to be locked out of the playoffs for this year. But just a little bit of a heads up, they do not have that Z next to their name, but they have the wild card spot, the third wild card spot in the National League. Rays won the AL East with the Blue Jays and Yankees grabbing wild card spots. Yankees at times looked not so great last year, but they pulled it together. Guardians, I should say this year. Guardians win the Central. They looked pretty good all year. Houston Astros with 106 wins. That easily leads Major League Baseball. And the Rangers grabbing themselves a wild card spot, saying, haha, don't mind if I do. Phillies win the East. It looks like the Braves were going to win the East for a lot of the year, but they'll settle for a wild card spot. Cardinals win the Central. And then the Dodgers, the pesky Dodgers, with their awful start to the season, they still win the West with the Padres grabbing a wild card spot. So let's move on to the playoffs. So the only reason I knew the Mets had made the wild card is because they'd already won Game 1 versus the Cardinals. Padres win Game 1 versus the Braves. Remember, the Braves just missing out because of the Phillies coming on strong. And wow, just like that, the Braves are done. Meanwhile, in the American League, things are starting and ending in terms of the wild card round. The Rangers advance over the division-winning Rays. And then the Yankees advance over the Blue Jays, their division rivals. So now our division series are all set up. Let's see how they pan out. I like to just sort of go one day at a time here. It looks like a quick jump start for the Phillies here, up 2-0 over the Cardinals. Meanwhile, we have the Padres taking a 2-1 lead. Phillies advance, so the Phillies, they punch their ticket for the NLCS, 2 apiece here in this National League Series. Rangers, they advance. Rangers advance over the Central champions, the Cleveland Guardians. So you will see the Texas Rangers in the championship series. Meanwhile, let's see what's happening here between the Astros and the Yankees. It's going to be the Yankees in 5 over the Astros. The Yankees have suffered a lot at the hands of the Astros in the playoffs in recent years. And then it's the Padres over the Dodgers. So the stage is set for these championship series. And I want to get to know these 4 teams a little bit better before we simulate that part. So here's a look at the Yankees, who are obviously led by Aaron Judge, but looks like it was a really good season for Oswald Peraza, who's hitting leadoff for them, as well as Carlos Rodon. So Carlos Rodon came back from injury, somehow threw 219 innings. So again, I think the innings pitched totals on some of these guys a little bit inflated. I will point that out right now, but things will get better. This is a new game, and they usually clean this stuff up after a few weeks. Texas Rangers, let's get to know them. DeGrom leads the way. He strikes out 283 batters. Calf strain 1 week. Ooh, so he might miss the series. That would be huge. That would be a big deal if that happened. Looks like a good year for Corey Seager, good year for Semien. He hits 30 bombs. We're going to see how this rotation can do. Jake Odorizzi actually made the All-Star game as a reliever, so he's done well in both roles. San Diego Padres, here's a look at them. Machado, only 17 home runs. Maybe not the best season of his career. Looks like Tatis, pretty solid comeback. He's only played 96 games this year, though. Kind of an interesting lineup. Looks like Xander, really good year for the Padres. He's batting leadoff for them, but it looks like the pitching is really the highlight here. Blake Snell, Yu Darvish, Joe Musgrove, and I missed this, but they have Joe Ryan, so I want to take a look at that. Joe Ryan, this was a big trade. I'm sorry I missed this one. The deadline in exchange for Ha-Seong Kim, this gentleman, Ryan Weathers, I believe is their former first-round pick, Jay Groom, Jackson Wolf, Justin Lewis. So that was a big trade, but they get Joe Ryan. That could factor into the series big time. And then the Phillies, Trey Turner, excellent year for Trey Turner, 5.5 WAR his first year with the Phillies. Of course, we know they got Josh Young as well in a trade that involved Craig Kimbrell, Wheeler, Nola leading the way. And then here's this guy, youngster, Griff McGarry, could be an X factor in this series. And away we go. So, Phillies grabbed game 1 and game 2, so they're up 2-0. They have not lost a playoff game yet. Meanwhile, Texas grabs game 1. Texas grabs game 2. Let's see what's happening here. Ooh, okay, this could be lopsided championship series here. And it is going to be, the Yankees respond with a win and the Padres respond with the win. They're like, hold on a second here. Padres respond with another win. Could it be the reverse sweep? 3-2 leads here for the Phillies and the Rangers at the moment. Let's see it. Ooh, okay. The Phillies will advance to the World Series. They lost in the World Series in 2022. Can they win it in 2023? They'll be facing the winner of Game 7 between the Rangers and the Yankees, which will be the New York Yankees. So here we go. Phillies-Yankees World Series. How about that? Okay, Game 1 is going to go to the Yankees. Game 2, Phillies. They tie it up. Yankees win Game 3. They're up 2-1. Oh, but the Phillies respond. It's a 2-2 series heading into Game 5, which is won by the Yankees. So the Yankees take a commanding 3-2 lead. What will happen next? The Yankees are the World Series champions 2023. They grab that wild card spot. They defeat the Blue Jays. They defeat the Astros. And then they defeat the Philadelphia Phillies. Congratulations, New York Yankees. No need to play the season this year, guys. We know the outcome. It's going to be Yankees over Phillies in the World Series. Here's a look at the box score for the World Series really quick. A couple of close games here. The Yankees won 4-3 in Game 1, and then by that same score in Game 3. But Yankees fans, you are not ready for your World Series MVP because it is Josh Donaldson, who hit .381 with a .905 slugging percentage, a couple home runs for the Yankees. So there you go. Take back everything bad you ever said about him. The New York Yankees, with 88 wins in the regular season, are your World Series champions. At the end of the regular season, here are your statistical leaders. Freddie Freeman grabbing a batting title. Tim Anderson in the American League grabbing his batting title. Aaron Judge, 50 bombs, leads the way. Also 128 runs batted in. Juan Soto leads on base percentage by a solid 20 points. Freddie leads slugging. Austin Riley leads OPS, though. He's the only player to OPS over 1,000. 7.5 F-WAR for Jose Ramirez. Way to go. And then we were really interested in the stolen bases. It's Estuary Ruiz, who finishes on top with 59 stolen bases. Pitching leaders, Julio Urias, ERA crown once again, but torn flexor tendon, elbow, 7 months. That seems important to know. Lance McCullers Jr., he missed a little bit at the beginning of the year. That didn't stop him, though, 2.93 ERA. And then JV, 2.95. 20 wins for Shane Bieber, 55 saves for Emmanuel Clace. Wow, that's big time. Garrett Cole leads the way in terms of innings pitched with 225. Okay, I've said some things about the innings pitched, but that actually seems pretty reasonable to me in terms of leading the league. Julio Urias, 7.9 reference WAR, but F-WAR is led by DeGrom as well as strikeouts. Okay, we are officially in off-season mode. We will be checking in on some of the top free agents, but first, it's award season. Here are your Gold Glove winners in the American League. I'm struck by Leody Taveras for the Rangers. Way to go. He was always respected for his glove. In the National League, here you are. It's Austin Hedges, an OOTP legend. Nolan Arenado grabs what I believe is his 39th consecutive Gold Glove award at third base alongside his teammate, Tommy Edman, and Tyler O'Neill. So way to go, Cardinals. Trent Grisham, Mookie Betts. AL Reliever of the Year, Emmanuel Clace. Not unanimous, though. Ryan Presley and Brian Abreu, two Houston Astros teammates, grabbing their fair share of votes as well. NL Reliever of the Year is going to be Josh Hader. Josh Hader with a 2.22 ERA, 121 strikeouts in 73 innings for the San Diego Padres. American League Silver Slugger winners. Gotta be honest with you, seems pretty reasonable. Not a lot of shocking names on this list, so nice job there, OOTP, I guess. And then your NL Silver Sluggers, William Contreras with the Brewers. I think he could be in for a really big year. Austin Riley had a really big year. Michael Harris had a really big year. And then Nolan Gorman, interestingly enough, grabbing that DH Silver Slugger. That one can be awkward sometimes. AL Rookie of the Year, Oswald Peraza. It is unanimous. Why wouldn't it be? He had a monster year for the Yankees. This is the kind of year I think Yankees fans are hoping Volpe's going to have. Gunnar Henderson, your runner-up. A really solid year. You can't say too much bad about it. Tyler Hill of the Mariners, by the way, I saw this guy pop up in some of the stolen base leaderboards. I don't know too much about him in real life, but 29 steals and a 113 OPS plus. That's pretty good. NL Rookie of the Year, unanimous. I love this because he's a player I actually really like this year. Ezekiel Tovar, playing some big-time defense for the Colorado Rockies, also steals 31 bases. This guy, Vaughn Brown of the San Francisco Giants, second of the 4 WAR season of his own. AL Manager of the Year, it's going to be Bruce Bochy. The Rangers, they surprised people this year, made the ALCS. And then Manager of the Year in the National League is going to be Tomper, Rob Thompson. DeGrom wins the Cy Young. Carlos Rodon also 9 first-place votes, so he had a big season. Shane Bieber finishes third. In the National League, it's going to be Julio Urias, unanimous. Again, he had that injury, so he missed some action. I guess maybe in the playoffs there. Yeah. So it looks like he didn't pitch beyond September 3rd. Wow. Justin Verlander finishes second. Blake Snell third, and my best friend, the whole wide world, Spencer Strider fourth. Here's your MVP. It's J-Ram. I'm very excited to see that. I love J-Ram. J-Ram is my favorite player in Major League Baseball. I feel like I've said that before, but I just love him to death. He's always in MVP contention, so the idea of him winning MVP, not too shocking. Aaron Judge, 2 first-place votes of his own. Trouty finishes third. I know people probably want to know how Mike Trout did this season. Mike Trout, really good season. Does Ohtani show up here in any way? No. Okay, we might have to check out Ohtani just to be sure what happened there. Austin Riley wins over his former teammate Freddie Freeman. This is for the NL MVP, and then Michael Harris the second with a third-place finish. He had a big year. Betts, Turner, Olson. Good crop, but it's going to be Austin Riley with his MLB leading OPS over 1,000, 35 home runs, 331 average. Your NL MVP. Let's check on Ohtani. Okay, this is big, and this is definitely the talent change randomness. This is definitely a bunch of weirdness happening here. So Ohtani had a normal year, a normal human being year. He was still a pretty good pitcher. He threw 154 innings, 3.72 ERA, 114 ERA plus. Batting-wise, about 500 plate appearances, 26 home runs. Not a great batting average or on-base percentage, 102 OPS plus. That's not the thing that's shocking to me. What's shocking to me is that he has signed a 1-year deal for $19.4 million. Now, his ratings have gone down some, but they're still excellent, it appears. So Shohei Ohtani will not be a free agent until 2024. He returns to the Los Angeles Angels for let's call it a paltry sum compared to what he's going to get in real life, hopefully about a year from now. So that's your Shohei Ohtani update. These are the types of things that can happen when you do a lot of talent change randomness, when you've got a game it's still kind of early release days, still a little jank. Again, they're not sponsoring me or anything. I'm just playing this for fun, so I can say whatever I want about the game. But yeah, that's a look at Shohei Ohtani. Let's check in with the top free agents, which he will not be a part of. So without Shohei Ohtani part of this free agency class, all the attention is now going to be on Aaron Nola, who celebrated another excellent year in 2023 with his Phillies, a 3.58 ERA, 206 innings pitched, 5.5 WAR. I think Aaron Nola is in for a big contract year himself in real life, and I would really love it if he just gets a massive payday. Could be from the Phillies, could be from someone else, but he's the real deal, I think. He's just got such good command. Matt Chapman, another big free agent, although I will say not the best of seasons. So I'm kind of curious here with some of the names missing from the free agency ranks as when we reach a point where Adam Duvall is third, for example, if it's easier for players to get extended at the moment with some of the AI. So we'll check on a couple other players too. But here's Adam Duvall's season. Had a really excellent year with Boston, got traded to Toronto, and then did better. So you can't really argue with the numbers he put up. Looks like he hit 36 bombs. So good for Adam Duvall. But when you see Kershaw and Zunino and Jock Peterson, and then here is and this is when I can really get into a little bit of a rant about the game. This game used to have NPB. This is the first year they haven't had NPB, and so what you're seeing is CPU-generated NPB players. As far as I'm concerned, this is not a real player, but you're not going to see Roki Sasaki come over. You're not going to see Murakami come over. You're not going to see Yamamoto come over, and it's unfortunate, but we'll say this is maybe the closest thing to Murakami we'll see, except he's 31. So yeah, this is a fictional player, and whoever signs him will probably be happy they did. Okay, the other player I did want to check in on because he is potentially another big free agent this offseason is Julio Urias. Julio Urias was extended by the Dodgers 4 years, $107 million with a player option in 2027, some incentives for Cy Young as well. But remember, he has that injury, that torn flexor tendon in his elbow, which was suffered in September. So again, Julio Urias not a free agent. So it's really just Aaron Nola sweepstakes. Here's a look at your Rule 5 draft. I don't expect it to be super interesting every year. This year, I don't find it particularly interesting. Pedro Fernandez, picked by the Rockies, first player. I guess the biggest thing is that there were just a lot of players drafted in the Rule 5 draft. That's kind of interesting. They're, of course, going to have to stick on their team's active roster all year if they want to keep them. Mike Brasso went second. Some other interesting names, Jorge Mateo, that's an interesting name. Blake Sable, that would be the two-timer for him. Caleb Killian, Jorbit Vivas are kind of interesting. Josh Fleming, sure, why not? And then Alan Cordoba, the final pick by the Nationals, who made 4 selections in this draft. Oh, man, this guy just can't get enough of the Rule 5 draft. Poor guy. I think the Rule 5 draft kind of ruined his life. So we have seen the bulk of the big free agents. I'm saying sort of big in scare quotes because, I mean, no Ohtani, no Arias, even, Nola getting kind of underpaid. Everyone here getting kind of underpaid, it seems like. But Aaron Nola, Chicago White Sox, 6 years, $128 million. Matt Chapman, Milwaukee Brewers, 7 years, $117 million. Ross Stripling had a big year last year, so I'll mention him. $50 million for 4 years with the Cubs. They also signed Eric Hosmer. All right. Looks like he had a pretty good season for them, so why not? Hall of Fame voting results are out. This is January 15th. Carlos Beltran got the most votes, but nobody made it. Carlos Beltran, 67%, Yeats 75%. Adrian Beltre, 3,000 career hits, squeaky clean reputation, 63%. I doubt it. I think that's a pretty easy slam dunk, 95+%. But, unfortunately, this series is 100% accurate based on the simulation. So I'm sure between now and January 2024, we'll find out that Adrian Beltre, something awful about him. Maybe that he takes off his shoes and socks on flights and he has stinky feet. I think that would do it. That would really hurt his squeaky clean reputation. In terms of free agent signings, Naganori Nakamura, the fictional Japanese NPB player, again, NPB not in this game, he signs with the Texas Rangers, and he has 70 home run power, so we'll have to keep an eye out for him. Jack Flaherty going to the San Francisco Giants on a 3-year deal. That one's kind of interesting. And then Severino to the Cincinnati Reds. Looks like Severino, not the greatest of ERA, pretty average season, but he did stay healthy, throw 174 innings. So the Cincinnati Reds said, "Yes, please, we'll take that." Any other big signings here? Okay, this one is interesting to me. Nick Ahmed, getting a pretty big contract here, coming off of a 2.8 WAR season, a very Nick Ahmed style 2.8 WAR season, where a lot of it is going to be based on his defense. Mike Zunino, 5-year deal with the Minnesota Twins. Great defensive catcher, coming off a 4 WAR season, was an above-average hitter last year for Cleveland, so he makes the hop to the division rival Minnesota Twins. So I will catch up with you guys as we are starting to get into spring training. Okay, spring training is beginning. We've seen where some of the top free agents have gone, but one thing we also have to catch up on is trades. There have been a fair amount of trades this offseason, so I'm just kind of scouring through the transaction news, trying to find the interesting one. We're going to start things off with Zach Gallen. Zach Gallen has been traded to the New York Yankees. Looks like he had a pretty solid season last year for the Diamondbacks, maybe not as good as his 2022, but yes, Zach Gallen joins the New York Yankees. You're going to have to clean that up a little bit, young man. Looks like he still had a pretty solid year. I mean, and a 344 BABIP, like if that regresses, he should be pretty solid for the Yankees team that we know has lost Luis Severino. New York sent this young starting pitcher prospect, this slightly older starting pitching prospect, as well as this guy. So it was just sort of a package deal, but Zach Gallen making the move to the Bronx. Trevor Rogers is on his way to the New York Mets. He has just not been able to get it together since his excellent 2021 season. I'm really curious to see what 2023 has in store for him, but he is on his way to the Mets in exchange for Dominic Hamill, a pitching prospect. Houston is traded for DL Hall in exchange for this guy and this guy. Christian Walker joining the Philadelphia Phillies. Looks like it's going to be kind of a steal of a trade because this guy, Christian Hernandez, is all they sent. And they also get this prospect, third baseman Ruben Santana, as a bonus. You might be surprised that Franmil Reyes is involved in a relevant trade, but he just hit 30 bombs for KC. Now he's on his way to Atlanta. Shades of Jorge Soler? The Twins have been pretty active in this series so far. Bailey Ober heading to San Francisco in exchange for J.D. Davis and Mason Englert. Ji-Wan Bae looks like he could be a pretty good young second baseman in this league. He has been traded by the Pittsburgh Pirates in sort of a package deal in exchange for this young starting pitcher, Mike Vassell. Oh, finally, here's a big deal. Here is a big boy deal. Simple as that. Bam. Brandon Woodruff, Blue Jays. Alejandro Kirk, Milwaukee. Make of it what you will. I love it, just because they're two really good players. Pablo Lopez did not have a great first season in Minnesota. He gets a change of scenery, moves to Tampa Bay in exchange for Junior Caminero. Oh my, you thought Woodruff and Kirk, you thought that was the big one from the Brewers? Okay, so they trade Corbin Burnes to the Cardinals. Corbin Burnes coming off a pretty bad year, by his standards at least, where he led the league in walks with 110. Where'd the control go, Corbin Burnes? What happened? But anyways, they get Brendan Donovan, who just had a huge year, 386 on base after a 394 rookie season. And there you go. So he's going to join them. And then they also get Brewers' Mason Wynn, the absolute freak infield prospect, who admittedly did not have a great 2023 in the save at the AA level either. But wow, so many implications of this trade. But yes, Corbin Burnes to the Cardinals. I think he has one more year until free agency. Nope, looks like he has an extension. That is for 5 years, 114. He's got an opt-out after 2027 potentially. So yeah, they've got Corbin Burnes for a good long while, although coming off of not a great year by his standards. Caleb Thielbar was traded to the Giants. I guess this one's relevant because he's coming off an All-Star game appearance. Austin Meadows, also an All-Star in 2023, as well as Parker Meadows on their way to the Los Angeles Dodgers in exchange for Robbie Snelling and Miguel Vargas. Well, this is a fun one. TJ Friedl to the Yankees for Jason Dominguez. All right. Well, maybe TJ Friedl is the real Martian after all. Cardinals got David Bednar from Pittsburgh for, just a selection of young pitchers right there. Kevin Alcantara to Washington in exchange for Joey Meneses. This one's really interesting. How about MJ Melendez to Cleveland for Oscar Gonzalez? Which one of those guys would you rather have? This might be a little bit of a hot take. I would rather have Melendez. Andrew Benintendi's on his way to Toronto for Santiago Espinal. Pretty solid first season in Chicago. I guess it'll be his only season in Chicago for Benintendi. A lot of trades in this. I think they've got new trade AI this year, and you're just seeing a lot of trades go through, like multiples per day throughout the offseason. So I just have to kind of figure out the interesting ones. Oh, I just saw something very, very interesting. It's going to be the Dodgers sending Diego Cartaya, who in this game is one of the absolute top prospects, top young players in the game. Number 22 prospect, 4-star catcher with 70 home run power. Well, so I kind of figured Ohtani would end up on the Dodgers anyways. I just didn't think it would be anything like this, and I didn't think he would be a free agent in 2024. So, all's well that ends well. I'm tugging my shirt collar right now. You can't see me, but I'm tugging my shirt collar. Nate Eovaldi's joining the Braves. Not that you care. We already saw the important news. Ooh, interesting one. Kevin Pareda, the power-hitting catcher for Marcus Stroman. Marcus Stroman back with the Mets. Oscar Colas, after a pretty solid rookie season for Chicago, they're like, get out of here. We want Kyle Bradish and Dylan Beavers. So Oscar to Baltimore. Okay, this one's interesting. So the Brewers got Kirk, so then that made Contreras kind of a surplus. So they trade Contreras for Will Vest, not that important, and Riley Green. That's a really interesting offseason for the Brewers, I'll put it that way. Hunter Green's been traded. This is absolute chaos. This is absolutely out of control. In a trade that will involve Jose Miranda back to the Reds. So, oh my goodness, Hunter Green, just mark that in your copybook. Minnesota Twin now. Brady Singer going to Toronto for Ricky Tiedemann. Like this is just insane. This is just insane. Look how many trades are being made. And these trades are involving big-name players a lot of the time. Alex Verdugo's on the Giants now in exchange for Luis Matos. Now you know that. Merrill Kelly will now go to the Chicago White Sox to devour some innings in exchange for some young guns. Jesus Luzardo is a Philly now. So just so you know, Jesus Luzardo, Philadelphia Phillies. Ooh, okay. Tink Hence for Tim Anderson. So Tim Anderson, Cardinals. Okay. That's, Well, that's going to be what we call an interesting fit. Tink Hence, though, one of my favorite pitching prospects right now. Big fan. Okay, Nick Lodolo, who did not have a good 2023 for the Reds after an excellent rookie season, on his way to the Blue Jays in a trade involving Aurelvis Martinez, who is a top 100 prospect on a lot of lists, as well as this guy, Devereaux Harrison. Well, he's got a great baseball name. Oh my goodness, here's a trade. Luis Arias, Brewers, Robert Gasser, Marlins. We've already seen him get traded, but he's a Marlin too. Derek Hall, who I actually kind of like this year. Maybe could be good. Maybe Rhys Hoskins gone. Maybe for Alek Thomas. Sure, okay, why not? Alek Thomas, Philadelphia Philly. Everyone's a Philadelphia Philly if you try hard enough. Yeah, Jack Leiter traded. Sure, why not? I think what I'm taking away from this is that in this current state, it involves Evan Carter too. Great. Why would anyone ever want to do this? Even if it is Dylan Lesko. What I'm taking away from this is that I just can't really go forward with this simulation with the game in this state. The trades are just out of control. Here's of course. Here's Will Crow for Anthony Volpe. Now, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. If this happened, right? If Oswald Peraza was him and he just went out and won, like a Rookie of the Year, easy, they might trade Volpe, but they wouldn't trade him for Will Crow. And then Jared Kelenic on his way to the Washington Nationals. Looks like he was good in a small sample in the majors in 2023. Also tore it up at the AAA level, but let's be honest, he's kind of already been doing that. And then Mackenzie Gore to the Brewers because why not? Not like he had a good season in 2023 with the Washington Nationals. So I think what I've taken away from this is that in this current state, as fun as it is, as chaotic as it is, I can't, in good faith, continue with the simulation because it's going to get totally and completely, utterly out of my control or anyone's control. So let's enjoy this for what it was. It was a one-year simulation of the 2023 season, plus an off-season that was just absolutely bonkers from start to finish. So I enjoyed it. But originally I was thinking maybe this would be a 5-year project or a 10-year project. I'm definitely down to do that, but I think the game is going to need some tweaking. I don't think it's going to need a total overhaul, but it's going to need some tweaking. So thank you so much for tuning in and enjoying this OOTP 24 content. I hope there will be more for you in the future. So yeah, a really chaotic offseason with some really unrealistic transactions, even by OOTP standards, and I guess I shouldn't be that shocked. Very often this game ships out and there's some really questionable AI going on, and then within, a month or so, they patch it and the game runs pretty well. It's making me not want to continue this series, but I'd be interested to hear your feedback. Do you want to see me just keep going in this insane, bizarro baseball world? Or did you think that the 2023 experiment was enough? So just let me know, and thanks for watching.